and welcome. I'm Jackie, and this is The Empowered Mind. Today's video is about guilt. I don't know a person in the world. Do you know anybody that has never been guilted into doing something or guilted into not doing something that they wanted to do? And it's a horrible feeling for that to happen to us. So I really want to address this once and for all, give you some information that's going to really help you to be able to deal with the guilt in your life. I'm going to break it down into two parts. So the first part, I want to talk about why people use guilt so easily. Like, well, why does it happen so much? And the second thing I want to talk about is why we use it on ourselves and why it actually works. Why do we allow it to work? And because this is the empowered mind, I want you to have choices. If you want to use guilt, or if you want to be guilted, or if you want to use guilt on yourself, that's completely up to you. I'm good with that, as long as you are consciously and deliberately making the choice that you want to be guilted into something. So first things first. First point I talked about, why do people use guilt on us? Okay, why are we guilted? So let me tell you a little story. This is perfect. Okay. Years and years ago, when I was a young adult, myself and my sisters and my parents were together for a Christmas celebration, and Dad wanted to go to Christmas Eve Mass. And I didn't really feel like it, and my sisters didn't feel like it either. And my youngest sister, spoke up and told Mom, no, I'm not going to be going to Mass. My mom immediately started laying on the guilt. And she started saying, the usual. I don't know what she was saying. Emotional manipulation. Like, oh, you have to go. Your dad's going to be by himself. And it's Christmas. And, you have to. There's baby Jesus. You guys get the idea, right? And my sister decided to speak up, and she said to my mom, you know what, Mom? And I was mortified, by the way, at that point in my life. I would never speak up to my mother like that. Anyways, but she spoke up and she said, you know what, Mom? You are using guilt to manipulate us. You're using guilt to be able to get us to do what you want us to do, and that's not right. My mom's look on her face was absolute bewilderment. She was completely shocked. And she responded, she said, well, of course I'm using guilt. It works. And that's the bottom line. We have been conditioned for so long, for so many centuries, by so many different types of institutions, whether cultural, political, religious, and so on and so forth, to respond to guilt. It's almost in our DNA. And when people start to emotionally manipulate us, not everybody, but a good portion of us, we respond immediately. Sometimes we don't even know we're doing it. So what I want you to know is, and it's going to be one of those, easier said than done things, but it's not really, actually. It's easier done than said. You don't have to choose to feel bad based on a decision of what you want to do and what you don't want to do. That's really what it comes down to. I mean, I can write you a permission slip if you like. You no longer have to feel manipulated or coerced or guilted into, however you frame it, doing something you don't want to do, or stopping yourself from doing and being who you are and who you want to be. All right? The second thing is, but why do we do it? Like, why do we even do it to ourselves? Like, I hear people say, oh, I wanted to do this, and I feeling so guilty, I just didn't do it, right? And it actually remembers of when I first learned this, what I'm going to share with you. So I was, at the time, a very young mother. I had my second child, who was like 6 months old. And my husband and I decided we wanted to take a vacation, and we were going to leave the kids behind. I know, see, I'm even whispering it to this day. But we were going to leave the kids behind. And I was just completely overcome with guilt. I was like, oh, I can't do it. How could I do that? It's not fair. They came into this world, all this stuff, whatever. And it just so happened at the time I was reading and researching about this type of thing, including emotional manipulation, this type of stuff. And I heard something really spectacular. And what I read, the author had said quite simply this: guilt is what you do when you don't want to take responsibility, take ownership for the decision that you've made or are about to make. Now, I've embellished that a little bit because it was a really long time ago and I don't remember exactly what she said, but that's the thing. I'm going to repeat it again. Guilt is what you do when you don't want to take full responsibility for the decision that you've made and the consequences that could come or that have come about with it. Now, if you take this and you apply it to my particular situation with my young son, and my other son as well was there. You know, he was about 4 at the time. The other one was newly about 6 months. I came to realize that I was going to take the vacation, and whether I allowed myself to feel good about being on vacation and standing by my decision that I wanted to take this vacation and that it was okay and it was in my mental health, emotional well-being, my best interest and my husband's best interest to take that vacation without our children, that was a good decision. And the crazy part about it is I really thought about it. I thought about it all round, and it was a good decision. But somehow my conditioning told me that to go away and leave your children, even if it's just for a week, I mean, a week, I've had them like 30 years now, right? That we had to feel bad about that somehow there's something wrong with us. And what I did instead is I took what I heard, that guilt is what I do when I don't want to take responsibility and I don't want to be accountable to the possible, repercussions of my actions. And I thought about it and I realized, yeah, that's exactly what was going on. So what I did in that moment in time, and I have practiced ever since, is simply allowed myself to look at any given situation, look at it thoroughly from all perspectives, and not putting in external elements. What would mom think? What would dad think? What would my husband think? What would my friend think? What would Bob think? What would the guy down the street think? The guy that, sells me milk, what is he going to think? Instead of doing all of that, just really what is important to me and what is important to you. That's what you've got to ask yourself. And when you make that decision and you've decided that, you stand by that decision. Guilt is optional. All right. And yes, people will attempt to use it on you. That's point one. They will attempt to use it on you. And you can very, calmly and from your heart to say, it's still not going to work for me. Like, Mom, no, I'm still not going to go to church. I love you and I love Dad, but I ain't going to go to church. And you don't have to put yourself through guilt, any type of emotional distress in making a decision, especially when it's aligned with your true self and what you truly believe is in your best interest. Be sure to follow and share and like if you've enjoyed the content, and I will look for you in the next video. Please add your comments. I'd love to hear from you. Take care and have a guilt-free day.